I want to thrift flip this button-up shirt into an adorable spring layering shirt. I love this fabric. I am so excited to do this. So I actually thrifted this and I absolutely loved it when I thrifted it because look at this print. Like, this is so pretty. All these hearts, and it's so soft, and it's 100% cotton, so you can't beat that. But every time I would put it on and layer it with anything, it just gave I'm bumming around the house vibes, and I just feel like with such a pretty print, it should be giving way more than that.
I want the fresh baked buns. I want the fresh baked buns.
So I am going to thrift flip this into something really, really cute that hopefully I will wear more of, because every time I put it on, I just never wear it. And before I can do anything, I have to figure out exactly where I want to shorten it, where I want it to fall on my body. And you can use chalk or an erasable pen to do that with. And my thought is to create 2 ties to tie it here in the front. And I do want it to be tighter. I don't want it to be this loose. So I think I'm gonna add 2 ties, one right below my breast and then one a little bit lower near my waist. And then I do want to shorten it just a little bit. And I want to change the collar because this is not my favorite collar. These have never been my favorite collar, to be honest. So let's get started. The first thing I did was measure where I wanted the shirt to fall on me and mark it with some chalk. I marked the back as well as the front. Then I folded the shirt in half to make sure that when I cut it, both sides will be completely even. I like to pin the bottom and the sides to keep everything from moving while I'm getting ready to cut it. And then I just cut that piece away. I used my rotary tool for this because it makes life so much easier.
Look who knows so much.
Before I cut the front half, I need to remove the pocket, and there will be little tiny holes going around it, but don't worry, once you wash the garment, those should go away. This material is very soft, so it started to move while I was using my rotary tool. So to stabilize it, you can use a wide ruler and press your rotary up against it while you cut, and it should be nice and smooth after you cut it. I went ahead and marked where I wanted the 2 channels to go around my shirt, but before I can add those, I need to take off a little bit of the button placket on both sides of the shirt. I used my seam ripper to do this and went above where I want the channels to actually go, so that way I had a little bit more space to work with. The side with the buttonholes was a little more complicated because there's a lot of extra stitching around those buttonholes, but once all the stitching is removed, I just re-stitched the holes closed since I won't be needing those anymore. And of course, I'm going to keep all of the buttons and any leftover material for future use.
Yeah, I love it.
To add the lines to the back of the shirt, I just closed the shirt on one side, and you will be able to see where the front markings are. I can just add those markings now to the back so they're completely even. Once the lines are there, you can cut directly across those lines, but this is future me talking, and I realized those lines were so close together that I honestly could have just done one. So that would have made my life so much easier. Once I cut it, I put the cut pieces right sides together and pinned, making sure to line up the seams that are on the sides of the shirt. And now it's time to stitch the shirt back together. I chose to do a 5/8 seam allowance. When you're done, you should have 2 wide pieces of material on each side that will become your channels. Open those up and give it a good press. I had a seamstress at Joann's tell me once that over 50% of making clothing is ironing, and now every time I iron anything when I'm creating something, I can just hear those words in my head. I did go ahead and pin down the sides, but the next thing I needed to do was stitch close to the edge to create a channel or a casing for my ribbons. And now, after that's done, I have channels. It is time to make the strings. I actually recommend, if you don't want to use strings or make your own strings, is just to buy some pretty ribbon and thread it through because you're predominantly done at that point. To make your own strings, you just cut 2 long rectangles, and you want it to be about 2.5 inches wide. That's how wide mine were. And you want them to be however long you need them to be. Then fold it in half, stitch along the edge to close them, and then you're going to trim away the excess fabric after it's stitched. Then you're going to turn it to the right sides out and press. Okay, so for the string, the drawstring that I'm going to be using, I am cutting the second one because the first one that I did was a pain to get through, and I'm hoping that by me trimming away the excess material, it will make it easier to pull it back through. Trial and error. Okay, so I'm actually new to this tool, and it is the tool to be able to pull things right side out. I completely forgot what it is called. I'm sure it will come to me later, but now, typically I don't use it on things this long. You usually use it on something way shorter because, I mean, look how short it is. So typically you just insert it into whatever you're wanting to pull out. Now, it did work on the other one, so my hope is that it will work just fine with this one as well. And yeah, so you just put all of your material into this, and then there's this tiny little hook on it. And I personally, what I do is I stab the material with that hook, and then I bring the hook up and make sure that the top latch piece, there's like a hook at the top, catches the material as well, and then I start to pull everything through. I've seen other people use this and they make it look so much easier than I do. I've never had a moment where it was like seamless, but honestly, it could just be that I'm using it incorrectly. That, or I just use like really thick material and other people are using maybe thinner. And once you have it going through and everything's like coming through easily, you should be able to just pull and it will start to turn everything to the right side out. Once you make it out to the other side, you can grab a hold of that material and you can start to pull with that, which is much easier. I did it! And yeah, so I'm gonna press these with my iron and then they are ready to go inside the shirt, and then I can finish the front of the shirt. Now that everything is nice and pressed, I can attach a safety pin to one side of the string and thread it through my channels. And I'm gonna do this to both channels, making sure that the strings are even on both sides. Now I need to finish the bottom of the shirt before I can stitch the front placket back down. So what I did was just serged the bottom of the shirt, and you can use a zigzag stitch if you don't have a serger. Then I just folded that over and stitched it down, and it was done. Now all I need to do is top stitch back over the placket that was removed. I just need to make sure I don't stitch over the holes where the strings are coming out of the shirt, or those will no longer be able to move. And I want to be able to tighten the shirt or make it loose later. So at the bottom, I just folded under the end during stitching to hide the raw edge. And voila, it is back together, and you can stop here if you're satisfied. But I want a different collar, so I removed the top part of the collar to make it shorter by just seam ripping all along the edge and then doing a top stitch back over where it was opened to close it. I also removed the tag on the back because that is always super itchy, and I will just put this piece in my scrap pile for later. And this thrift flip is complete. Are you ready to see it?
Oh my god, isn't that so cute?
So here are my final thoughts for this thrift flip. I have to say, I really do think that it layers better. I really love the way this looks. It looks just lighter. It looks better for spring. It flows better with my body versus just kind of hanging on my body. And I do think like it's cute for layering. I love that there's no collar because it elongates your neck, which is important. And I just think overall it looks better. I think if I were to change a couple of things, I would probably make the back the same length as the front, but I don't think I need to do that. And one of the other things I would change are these ties, because I used a very thick like cotton material. As you guys saw, I was using part of the top of a part of the top of a sheet, a bed sheet. So it is very thick, and I think it bunches weird in the casing area. So if I were to change anything, I would make new ties for this top, because I think it needs lighter, thinner, softer ties that will flow easier in and out, so that you can move this around, because you can completely tighten this as tight as you want to make it like really kind of hug your body, or you can loosen it all the way to make it loose. And I love that. And this is my favorite way to wear it, which is just tying it kind of on the side. And I think if there was like red strings here and here, it would be so cute. Thank goodness it turned out okay, because I really loved this shirt and I was afraid I was gonna mess it up. And one of the last thrift flips I tried to do, I completely messed it up and accidentally cut too much into it, and so the video never got released. But I did salvage some of the material, so I will be doing a video on that soon and the whole mess up, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this thrift flip. It is so cute. I'm in love with it. And of course, I've been trying super hard this year to use all of my scrap materials. So I have some scrap from this shirt, which is going into my pile. These ties came from scrap. I would love to be able to use all of that by the end of the year. We shall see. Anyway, if you guys have any ideas for my scrap material, let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys again soon.